Brother Kadash, giving all praises to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Rakakwadash. And this is going in on a solar eclipse that's coming up about a couple weeks from us now. But it's something that I want you to notice in the spirit. Something that I noticed myself coming up with this solar eclipse. So we know the Bible tells us, which I'm going to pull this off, not to get dismayed by the signs, right? Because the heathen are dismayed by the signs. But then it also tells us, this is in Genesis chapter 1. Let me pull it real quick. But it also tells us here in Genesis chapter 1, right? And it talks about the lights, right? And it said, let's go from the beginning. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. It says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, which is a lot to pack in there. You got to think about this is really talking about thousands of years, but it's saying that it's in a day. Now, if you go to Second Peter chapter 3, it says, one day to the Lord is 1,000 years to us, all packed into just this little portion of a book. It says, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw the light, and that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness, and he called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So that's where you get, there's waters above, and there's waters below. Right now, I want to jump to verse 14. It says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and for years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. So he said, look, the lights in the heavens, right, are for signs, seasons, and days, and years. So that's how we keep track of the months, and the days, and the years, and the signs, which is in heavens, right? So when we're on earth, we're looking up to the heavens, which is another word for the skies, or another word for space, right? So there's a total solar eclipse coming up 2024, April 8th. But this is the spirit part about it. I used to keep the Passover, so we follow, they would call us one Westers, right? Which we're kind of breaking out of the whole, we're one Wester Hebrew Israelites. We're just Hebrew Israelites, right? Some of us, right? We're waking up from that, right? Now, amongst the one Westers, you got some camps, they already kept their Passover maybe a couple days ago, right? But the Spirit moved me to, and it happened right before this Passover, right? Well, it happened this year, to follow another group that keeps their Passover on April 8th. So the difference was that it was all based off the signs in the heaven, with the sun and the moon. So it was all based off if you believe the moon was the full moon. No, the if you believe the new moon was when the moon was fully dark, or when the moon was fully bright. So I used to follow a camp that said the new moon is when the moon is fully dark. But then I heard the breakdown of IUIC, and they broke it down how right here, when the Lord said, when he's talking about the sun and the moon, well, the first moon, right, which was the new moon because it was the first moon, well, it was a moon that was fully bright that you could actually see. And that made all the sense in the world. So I started to keep the Sabbath days based off the moon being fully bright. And then in the Bible it says it's perfect and it decreases, meaning that when it's new, it's perfect, it's a full bright moon, because you don't want to get caught up in word semantics. And then it decreases, right? It didn't start as a dark moon and then increase to a full moon. You see what I'm saying? Because that's how the world follows it today. But the Bible says that it decreases, right? And then pair that with Genesis 1, with the first moon ever being seen was a fully bright moon, and that was the literal new moon. You see what I'm saying? To start off your first month, to start off your first year. That was all based on that moon, right? which was a fully bright moon. And they say, well, how could the new moon be the full moon when the full moon is when the moon is cut? So that's word semantics. So the difference is, do you believe the new moon is when the moon is completely dark, or when the moon is completely bright? Because you could say, well, the full moon, and you go to Google and it looks up full moon and it shows you, look, the moon is full. That can't be the new moon. The new moon got to be different than that. That's word semantics. Because if you say the new moon is a dark moon, well, that's a full moon too. It's a full moon of darkness. So you can't get caught up in word semantics. The new moon is when the moon is fully bright. And then the full, then you get that moon and a halfway is when it's completely dark because it decreases, right? That it starts at a point, then it decreases. But let's move on from that. So I started to keep the Passover, what the Sabbath days based on when the moon was fully bright. That's the beginning of the month, which is come in the middle of Esau's month, the worldly month, right? So when I started to keep that, of course, that changed up the Sabbath day. I mean, it changed up the Passover for me. So this year was coming up, and I was trying to figure out, when the Passover was coming, and then we came to the conclusion that it was going to be April 8th, right? Now, I had totally forgot about this solar eclipse. So I remember in 2017, they had the solar eclipse. They had that eclipse. I remember where I was at. I actually was in Texas, Laredo. I was in Texas, Laredo. So we weren't in the line where you see it says August 21st, 2017. But you could still look up and see things going on in the sky, right? So I remember thinking during that time, I was like, man, you know, we could be out of here by the next time when that X comes, because it's gonna make an X when the next one come. And I was like, man, I got 6 years before that thing comes. You know what I mean? But we'll probably be out of here by the time that comes, right? And like that'll probably be the end, right? When that one passes. Or but another thing I was thinking, or when that one finally comes, then all hell is gonna break loose after that one, because it marks the axe over America, which is the land of our captivity. It's axed out, right? So we already get to see that, and it's coming up in a couple weeks, right? And that's what I was thinking. But I never thought that I'd be keeping the Passover. Now let's go a little bit deeper into the spirit, right? So when the Passover come, we are supposed to be inside the house. You're not supposed to come out until the next day, right? And in Egypt, the Israelites, they went into the house and they couldn't come out, right? So they kept the Passover. They couldn't come out. Now, this is how like real this gets, cause we keep the Passover on the 8th, right? So by sundown, we're gonna be locked into the house, and then overnight, this or I actually have to get the actual time, but the solar eclipse is gonna happen while we're gonna be in the house, and then we're not gonna be able to come out until the next day. So that's basically gonna be like the passing over, literally while we're in the house keeping the Passover on April 8th in the spirit. So that had when I have figured that out, I was like, oh, okay. So that gave me that sign, like, okay, you're keeping the Passover on the right day that you should be keeping it. And we don't know what's going to happen after. All hell can break loose, because this does mark an X over America. And then I think the next one isn't going to be until a very, 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 very long time. And 6 years flew by fast, super fast. But this is why the Bible tells us not to be dismayed at the signs, because we got a job to do, which is keep the law, statutes, commandments, teach the law, statutes, commandments to the best of our abilities, and follow the Lord and have faith in the Lord. Keep our heads down and keep working, and then the Lord's going to come back like a thief in the night. So that's why we're not dismayed about these signs, but you do take note of it. Now, if you go on YouTube, there's thousands of videos of preppers saying, look, get ready before April 8th. You get ready, it's coming. This total solar eclipse, this one is different. This marks the X over America. X is marks the spot. They keep saying that and saying that and saying that over and over and over again. So some of them just trying to make money off of this, but we don't know. Now what's also interesting, if you want to go a little bit deeper into the spirit, right? So I'm actually in Illinois. So you see where the X is at, right? It's in Illinois. Now I'm a little bit up north. But I'm not up north by Chicago, so I'm in Springfield. So where this X is happening at, I may not even be. Shit, I may be 100 miles away from where this X is at. Maybe 100 miles, maybe not, maybe a little bit more, 100 plus miles or less, right, from where the X is going to be at. So I actually, well, I wouldn't be able to go to where the X is at because I gotta be in the house on the Passover, which is a good thing if it happens to be like the passing over of Egypt. If it is a Passover with the eclipse, because you guys looking up into the sky, you saying the moon going in front of the sun, and you saying it's a total solar eclipse. Man, you don't know what's going on in the heavens. All you know is you looking up seeing lights. You don't know what's actually going on. So you don't know if the Lord's actually going to pass over on this date too. And that's in the spirit, you know what I mean? So um just something that I seen with the total solar eclipse. It's a lot of YouTube videos saying that it's gonna go down on this one. Something's been pulling in my spirit, like, man, something's important, something's going on with this April 8th, 2024, and this August 21st, 2017 eclipse, and them making an X over America. Something's in the spirit is telling me something is going on. Now, it may just pass by because the Lord works that way too, where it could mark an X, right? And that was the X, and that was the start of something. But you don't actually see it start to ramp up until years later. But it started on this day. It could be that. Or it could happen on April 8th and all hell could break loose. We have to see. With that, I'm going to say salvation to the election.